Moment, but first, let's get back to the meeting between Justice Department officials and influential House GOP lawmakers. My next guest was one of those people in attendance, and joining me right now is House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes of California. Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria. It's great to be with you.
A lot to talk about with you, and we understand that you were at that meeting on Friday with Christopher Wray, Rod Rosenstein, Paul Ryan, as well as the other committee chairman, Bob Goodlatte and Trey Gowdy. Can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, this was a long time coming. It was very difficult to get this meeting put together. However, I think that we have a process to move forward. We're supposed to meet on Monday. Our staffs are supposed to meet on Monday, and all the subpoenas are supposed to be complied with this week. Now, I'm not sure. My confidence level is extremely low that DOJ and FBI are going to comply. I don't have a lot of confidence. However, it was good that the Speaker of the House was there along with the other two committee chairmen to make sure that the FBI and DOJ know that they've been put on notice, that we're not going to take no for an answer anymore, and that the subpoenas will be complied with, or the House will have to take other measures.
So in other words, you put a deadline in place. You want to see the documents that you've requested by when? What is the deadline in place that you've agreed to?
The deadline, multiple deadlines, let's not forget, multiple deadlines have been blown past, okay? So this is, I mean, we could just, there's countless deadlines. I think we went through a list of about 20 outstanding deadlines that have only partially been met or have not been met at all. So, but the key takeaway is that the Speaker of the House wanted to make sure that we essentially reset everything and got back on track to make sure that this week all of the outstanding requests are complied with this week.
What specifically are you looking for?
That's where it was left.
What request? Well, what is the request specifically? What documents are you looking for?
Well, as you know, we are looking into FISA abuse and other matters. So what does this mean is how did you use our nation's counterintelligence capabilities? These are capabilities that are used to track terrorists and other bad guys around the globe. How did you weaponize that against a political campaign, the Trump campaign, where ultimately it ended up in Carter Page having a FISA warrant put against him, which allowed the government to go in and grab all of his emails and phone calls. So that's primarily what we've been investigating for many, many months. We've asked for documents as it relates to that. And I will tell you, Chairman Gowdy was very, very clear with the Department of Justice and FBI and said that if there was any vectoring of any informants or spies or whatever you want to call them into the Trump campaign, before the investigation began, we better know about it by Sunday, meaning today. He was very, very clear about that. And as you probably know, there was breaking news this morning that now you have a couple Trump campaign people who are saying that they've amended their testimony before the House Intelligence Committee. They sent in both Friday night and this morning amendments to their testimony, saying that in fact they feel like somebody, they're not claiming it was the FBI, but someone ran informants or spies into them to try to get information and offer up Russian dirt to the Trump campaign. Now this would have been in May of 2016, which is obviously months before this counterintelligence investigation was opened by the FBI into the Trump campaign.
So what you're saying is Trey Gowdy told the DOJ on Friday night if there was any activity, any communication, any documents related to the Trump-Russia probe launching, if there was any information before it actually launched, you want to know that today, by today.
By today.
And have you heard from them?
Is there any other? And I reiterated.
So is there any? Have you heard from them that there's more information?
They have my phone number. They have my phone number. They know how to call myself or Mr. Gowdy. If I were them, I would pick up the phone and call us and let us know what this is all about, this story that broke in the Washington Post this morning, just hours ago.
Right.
They probably ought to tell us whether or not they were involved in that, or else they have a major, major problem on their hands.
The Washington Post is reporting that Trump associate Roger Stone reveals new contact with Russian national during the 2016 campaign. And yes, you're right. It was in May of 2016 when Roger Stone says that he was met with a Russian, he's calling him an informant, wanting money for information about Hillary Clinton that he says that he wants Donald Trump to pay for. You think that this is a new meeting that you didn't know about, and you should have been told about this by today from the DOJ?
Well, we should have been told about this about 8 months ago. Okay, let's start there. In compliance with the subpoena that we issued last August. But for sure, a couple months ago, when we began to ask, hey, we asked questions about, we had a subpoena, and we wanted to figure out, what they were doing before and after, right before and right after the opening of the counterintelligence investigation. So we asked for specific information and documents. As you know, that's what we've been fighting over for the last couple months now. And on Friday night, it culminated with us telling them, because they have swore up and down that they have given us everything that's pertinent to our investigation after the investigation was open. And they have claimed that there is nothing else that exists before that date. Now, this Washington Post story, I don't know that they're claiming for sure that this was an FBI spy or informant, and I have no idea whether it is or not, but it has all the makings or the looks of some type of spy or informant, and that would be a major problem because that is not something that has ever been brought to us. And it would be totally out of bounds.
Well, I guess it's important to note that Paul Ryan was at your meeting on Friday night because we haven't heard from the leadership in terms of this issue aggressively, for sure. And then we did have a comment from Trey Gowdy a month ago, which basically questioned whether or not the FBI did everything right. So the fact that Paul Ryan was there on Friday night, is this an indication that the leadership in the House are becoming more unified with the committee chairman?
Yeah, I think it is. If you look at, I think both Chairman Gowdy and Speaker Ryan have been giving the FBI and the Department of Justice the benefit of the doubt. I have not been, as you know. My patience has run out. I believe that they have leaked. They've created massive leaks. We know that from the IG report.
Well, we have
Inspector
a shot of that. Do we
Horowitz
have that
showed us
graphic
these
of all of the leaks,
major
Matt,
graphs
that you want to put up? Yeah, I have the IG report right in front of me, by the way. 560 pages. I've gone through a lot of it. This is the picture in the IG report that shows communication between senior FBI and DOJ people and reporters.
Yeah, so in that, and I reviewed that chart yesterday. And what I've been saying is, okay, look, we knew the FBI under Comey was leaking like a sieve everywhere. Director Wray has said that he's put in new requirements to make sure that they're not leaking to the press. Now think about that. All of those contacts, you have the FBI, the world's premier law enforcement agency, leaking to the press about ongoing investigations, while at the same time they're not giving information to Congress. Now what's happened in just the last couple weeks, what we've seen, and this is why I was very concerned about what Chairman Gowdy and Speaker Ryan had said, because they went way out on a limb protecting the Department of Justice. And what I had said is, well, wait a second here. How did these major leaks that have occurred here in the last couple weeks, how did those occur? Where did this information come from? And what we have found now is that we know at midnight, just a week ago, at midnight, the Department of Justice put out something on Republicans saying that we had not read documents that the Department of Justice had provided for us to read.
Right.
Now, that is a major leak of a classified meeting that also happens to be false because they knew that we ran out of time and didn't have time to actually read these documents. But they did that to embarrass the Speaker of the House and myself and Chairman Gowdy, who were given access to those documents but not given time to read those documents. That came from the top of the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Okay? Why are those people still working at the Department of Justice? They are leaking. So if you learned anything from the Horowitz IG report, where you had lots of leaks occurring at the FBI, it doesn't now make it okay that you just leak from the very top.
Well,
so I'm tired of the threats. Yeah. I'm tired of the leaks.
And you make a really important point here, because Peter Strzok is the one who has all of these texts that really show us firsthand what the feeling was about Donald Trump, certainly from Peter Strzok and Lisa Page's position. But I want to bring up this text, which we've been talking about all week, from the IG report. And this text is first from Lisa Page. She's writing to her boyfriend, Peter Strzok. Trump's not going to become president, right? And Peter Strzok answers, no, he won't. We'll stop it. Now, this is on August 8th of 2016. Peter Strzok was put in charge of the Trump investigation. He was put in charge of it on July 31st, 2016. So 9 days later, after he is put in charge, he writes, "We will stop it." What's your take on this?
Right. So what that shows, is it shows clear intent to run a very biased investigation. And look, I don't believe for a second that Mr. Strzok was just happenly put in charge of this just a week before. Strzok and Page and the rest of them all knew about this months in advance. They were well aware of what they were doing. They had opened this investigation, maybe not officially, but they were doing lots and lots of bad things that they have not shown Congress before that late July date. And that's really what we've been investigating here the whole time. And they would help themselves a whole lot if they just complied with our subpoenas and gave everything over to Congress. And look, here's the bottom line. Mr. Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, and Director Wray have to decide whether or not they want to be part of the cleanup crew or they want to be part of the cover-up crew. That's really the decision that they have to make for themselves here. The best way they can be part of the cleanup of this mess is give us all the documents this week so that we can put this behind us and let the American people begin to heal.
Well said. And I think we should point out that text, "We will stop it." Why are we just learning about that today? We're going to talk about that. Let's take a short break. Devin Nunes, we'll be right back with a lot more with the chairman of the Intel Committee. Stay with us. And once again, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. And Mr. Chairman, before we went to the break, you said you want to be part of the cleanup crew or the cover-up crew. That was a very important analysis that you raised, because we are looking at this text from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page, his girlfriend, when he says, "No, President Trump will not be, Donald Trump will not be president because we will stop it." That was on August 8th. We just got this information, this text, in the IG report. It's all in the IG report. How come we didn't see this text sooner than this, when we know that just 4 days later, Peter Strzok said to Lisa Page, same couple, he says, "We need an insurance policy." We knew that we had that insurance policy text months ago, but for some reason, this text did not see the light of day until the IG report. Why?
Well, what you're going to have to believe, now I'm just telling you, I'm not saying that I believe this, I'm just telling you this is the story that you're going to hear, is that at the high levels of the Department of Justice didn't know about this until a week ago, and the Department of Justice and FBI had only learned about it at the beginning of May. Now, I'm not sure that's it's probably all true at the highest levels. They just learned about it. But I think the bigger question is that was this just some technical glitch, as they've tried to claim in the past, or did somebody deliberately get rid of that text? And you have to understand, because that text message is so damaging and shows intent and shows the context of all the other text messages that surround that text message, and it's at the beginning of the investigation, you have to ask yourself, did somebody actually try to remove that text message from the FBI?
So, and by the way,
I think the answer, it's hard for the American people not to believe that that was not removed on purpose.
Well, you are right. The Department of Justice tells us, Fox News, that the IG just gave them that now. So that they just learned about it. It's in the IG report. So we'll watch that. But the broader point is...
Yeah, but on that too, Maria, if I can just expand on that, well, wait a second. You've known about it for a month. Wouldn't it have been important for us to know, the congressional investigators, to know about that even a month ago? If you did just get it a month ago, you probably should have brought it to us fairly quickly.
So explain how Christopher
that's what
Wray...
I would have done, right? If I'm in charge, I'm in charge of this, and I want to be part of the cleanup, not the cover-up, part of the cleanup, I bring those text messages. I get on the phone and I call the Speaker of the House and all the committee chairmen and ranking members, and I say, look, you've got to see this immediately.
Right, okay.
That's what I would do if you want to be part of the cleanup.
How is it possible that Christopher Wray gets in front of a podium the other day and says, look, we looked at the IG report, and what we've come up with the IG report is that no political bias actually impacted the end results, when we have the head of the Trump investigation, Peter Strzok, sending a text 8 days after he gets the job, "We will stop it," 4 days later saying, "We need an insurance policy so Donald Trump doesn't become president"? So how could you actually make the claim that bias did not impact decision-making?
So I believe what they're saying, and the media, the left-wing media, is trying to spin this. What they're really saying, what the IG report actually says is that as it relates to the Clinton email investigation, they couldn't prove bias.
Okay.
Which is far different than that they didn't find any. If you read, like I know you've read a lot of that. I read most of it yesterday, flying back from Washington to California. What I see through on every single page, you see that. You see bias.
Real quick, because we have a hard break, but I want to know how far you're willing to go. Are you going to go for contempt of Congress? When we come back, stay with us. Back once again with House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. And Mr. Chairman, this is my question as we continue diving into this IG report. You have been asking for these documents from the DOJ and the FBI now for a year. You had a major meeting on Friday and have come up with an agreement that they are going to deliver all of the documents that are left to be delivered to you by next Friday. If you do not get those documents this week by your deadline of Friday, what are you going to do?
Well, I would say it's more than this. The deadline's not Friday. The deadline is this week. So if documents do not begin to be turned over tomorrow, and a clear way and path forward for everything else is not clear here in the next couple days, there's going to be hell to pay by Wednesday morning, because we can no longer, it's not just about the committee chairman any longer. This is about rank and file members of Congress who continue to come up to me and say, what on earth are you guys doing? I have many members on the Intelligence Committee that are Republicans that are trying to get to the bottom of these issues. They're relying on me to get the documents so that they can complete the investigation that we began. So we are quickly, this is going to go from just myself and a few committee chairmen to all the members of the House of Representatives who are going to begin to take action against the Department of Justice and FBI.
Taking action meaning contempt of Congress?
Well, that's just one of the options. That's just one of many options, but I can tell you that it's not going to be pretty.
What are your options? What's not pretty? Are you going to force the resignation of Rod Rosenstein?
Well, we can't force the resignation, right? But we can hold in contempt. We can pass sense of Congress resolutions. We can impeach. And look, and I think we're getting close to there, right? I mean, if they don't have good reasons why they haven't provided us this information, the American people's patience have run out. My patience have run out. I think the Speaker of the House and Chairman Gowdy gave them every opportunity to try to clear all of this up. And there's just no time left anymore. It just looks like they're trying to run out the clock, as I've said many times on your show.
So so the bottom line is you're willing to go all the way. You're willing to move to impeachment of the leadership of DOJ and FBI.
Absolutely. Yep. I've been there for a while now.
We will leave that subject here, and obviously we want to talk with you next week, throughout the week, to see if you're getting these documents and where we stand on this. But I want to get a quick question from you on China. Given the tariffs that the president instituted on Friday, we're waiting to see. I mean, China's already said that it's going to retaliate, but I wrote an op-ed in Real Clear Politics this weekend basically saying forget about having China buying more stuff. The more important issue here is the fact that the Chinese steal our intellectual property. And innovations by Chinese firms can carry benefits far beyond their shores as long as they truly are innovating. Unfortunately, business executives from outside China have found too often that they are required to share their innovations via forced technology or the theft of intellectual property. You are investigating China for similar situation in terms of the military moves, correct? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a couple points on the intellectual property. So our first hearing that we had, we looked at military basing across the globe, and I think that I read your piece, Maria, and also Secretary Mattis had some great comments on what he believes the Chinese are doing globally and the military footprint that they're putting down. As it relates to intellectual property, we know that the Chinese are very sophisticated in cyber intrusion, and in fact, they are probably all over nearly every network globally every day trying to glean information out of companies' computer systems, government computer systems. They're very sophisticated and very good at what they do. Also happens to be illegal. Secondly, what they also do is they buy up companies so that they buy up companies and then they intrude that way so that they can find a way around to go in and get the information and steal it. So these are great innovative ideas that are created in the free market by either ourselves or European countries or other great governments around the world or great countries around the world that have all these people that come together to innovate, and then to have that stolen by the Chinese government and then put into action and monetized in China is a big problem, and that's what they've been doing for many years, and that's what your your piece in Real Color Politics actually pointed out.
Right. All right. Well, we will leave it there. We'll watch the developments there because obviously this is unnerving for markets and people want some clarity on where this is going. Congressman, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
A lot of news this morning from Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intel Committee. President Trump will be meeting with House Republicans this Tuesday to discuss immigration legislation. Meanwhile, there are two different bills being proposed, a moderate one written by House leadership and a more conservative one composed by House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte. My next guest helped write that